Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today we're going to be checking out the Masters of the Universe Origins Jitsu, Evil Master of Martial Arts. Another character straight from the vintage toy line is brought back in the Origins line, new for 22! So I guess apparently this is part of next year's wave, but it is hitting store shelves right now in December, which is where I found mine, at a Target store. Jitsu is a pretty exciting character to get in this line, for me specifically because of that amazing vac metal karate chopping hand there. I always loved that as a kid. I'm happy to see the vac metal return in the Origins line, so pretty cool stuff. Same standard blister card we've seen for all the figures in this line so far, and on the back, of course, we are treated to some gorgeous artwork of Jitsu doing battle with He-Man, with Skeletor right behind him there. Very beautiful, colorful scene. Look at Cyclone hiding back here. That's a pretty cool little nod. Hopefully, things to come right there. And down below that, we've got a cross-sell showing all the figures in this wave, as well as an action feature call-out showing his articulation and his accessory. So, let's go ahead and get the Evil Master of Martial Arts pulled out of the packaging and get a closer look at him. Alright, so here we have Jitsu outside of the packaging. Of course, like all the figures in this wave, it's worth mentioning that he does come with a brand new mini comic that he is the focus of, the Challenge of Jitsu. So, always cool to see a new mini comic included with a new wave of figures. It's a great nod to the vintage toy line, expands the universe. I love to see it. So, back to the figure itself, of course, like all the figures in this line, you can see that he stands just shy of a full 6 inches tall. They are at that 5.5 inch scale to fit right in with the vintage action figures. They are styled similar, they're the same height, they just have a bit more articulation and a bit more detail, which Jitsu here actually looks a lot like his vintage figure, and you'll see that more when we get to the comparison time segment of the show. The head sculpt is very similar to what we got with the vintage toy, though he does have like a teeth-gritting grimace going on there. But it's really cool seeing like the armor. This, of course, will likely get reused at some point for King Randor. It's very similar, even in color, but I do love the nice golds that are on there. They have a bit of a metallic look to them. You can really see that with the bracers. They're very shiny, as well as the fur at the top of the boots. He's got that shiny gold for the fur on his boots, which, you know, vintage one did too. I thought that was pretty cool. One thing I wish they would have worked in with this armor is a holster for his sword, because he does come with a sword accessory, and since his primary weapon is, of course, his big ol' metal hand, it'd have been cool if we had somewhere to actually holster the weapon. I understand the vintage one didn't have that, but we've seen them add it before with other figures. I would have really liked to see it added with Jitsu here. Of course, this armor works just like all the other armor in the line. It is that softer, pliable plastic, but it is removable from the figure if that's something that you want to take off. So, of course, the big thing here, of course, is the fact that he's got that big metal chopping hand. Very similar to what we have with Fisto with his big metal fist, but the thing that makes Jitsu stand out is that his is vac metalized. So we've got that incredibly metallic, shiny gold that is used on the hand there, which, again, the vintage one did the exact same thing. So I'm very happy to see Mattel bring back vac metalizing so that we can have that great look for it. Otherwise, it just doesn't look the same. For example, in Classics, they just painted his chopping hand gold, and for me personally, it just didn't have the same effect as the awesome shininess of vac metal that the vintage one had. Now, this does make me do that thing where I really wish that they would have just vac metalized Fisto's fist as well, and I know that the vintage toy didn't have a vac metalized fist, but even as a kid, I always wondered why Jitsu's was so shiny and Fisto's wasn't. This would have been a great opportunity for them to give us something we've never had before with a vac metalized Fisto fist, and it would have looked really cool next to this Jitsu here, but that's just me giving you guys a what-if scenario. That would have been really cool in my opinion, but I'm very glad that Jitsu's hand is as shiny as they could have made it. Very cool stuff. So, as far as the articulation goes, it's very basic for this line. You do have the ball joint at the head, so you can see that head rolls all the way around. It is removable, so it can pop off that socket there. The shoulders can go outwards, forwards, backwards. They can also be removed from the sockets of the shoulders. You can also see, of course, I popped the torso off. That removes at the waist there. Swivel at the elbow, bend at the elbow, swivel at the wrist, hinge at the wrist. You can also pop the hand off at the wrist, but only on his normal hand. You can articulate the chopping hand just like with Fisto, so it just rotates, but it is non-removable. They made this a non-removable piece. You can remove that whole arm with that, but of course he also has a completely new skin tone color that we haven't seen anywhere else in the line, so unless you're planning to do some painting and customizing, simple part swapping won't work as well with him because the skin tones are so different. Swivel at the waist there. You got the ball-like sockets there at the thighs. They can go outwards, forwards, backwards. You got the swivel at the knee, the bend at the knee, the swivel at the boot cut. The boots can also be removed, of course. Just pop them right off that peg there. And then the ankles move forwards, backwards, as well as rock side to side. So all in all, extremely good articulation. Matches up with the rest of the line. Head's a little loose on mine. You can see I got a bit of a bobble, which is unfortunate. That's not something I run into very often with this line, so maybe it's just with mine personally. And at least it's not like flopping around. I can still kind of pose it and it stays where I pose it. It's just noticeable in some areas. You can see it just a little bobbly. Alright, so of course his hand is one of his weapons, or his primary weapon, but just like the vintage toy, he does come with a sword, like a katana type weapon. This is just molded in an orange plastic. It's a lot brighter than the vintage one. It's also missing the handguard that the vintage one had, but otherwise it is still a similar weapon, so that way you can arm him up with an extra bit of detail there, especially if he's going to battle Fisto, who also has a sword. Man, that head bobble is actually getting worse the more I'm messing with him. That is really, really unfortunate. But, of course, yes, pairing him up against Fisto now is a lot of fun. Alright guys, it's comparison time! Here's a look at this brand new Jitsu standing alongside his vintage action figure counterpart, so you can see how similar the two actually are. And I've got to go ahead and show him alongside the Masters of the Universe Classics Jitsu, which had a bit of a different look for him, and again, you can really see the difference with the chopping hand there. The Classics one almost has a bit of an Infinity Gauntlet vibe to it. So there you go, my friends. That is a look at the Masters of the Universe Origins Jitsu. It's a very cool figure. He was sort of a later one in the vintage line, so I love that we've got him in Origins already. Again, he's a great foe for Fisto. You got the two metal fist dudes going at it. I love that this is really starting to show us that Mattel's going to do some vac metal where appropriate. I think it's really cool. All in all, I like this guy quite a bit. The only QC thing I have with him is that bobblehead, but I'm hoping that that's not like widespread because like I said, I haven't really run into that too much with the Origins line, so I could just have a bit of a dud here. But the overall sculpting and the look of the character, very nice on this guy. Absolutely worth grabbing for your collection. So these are starting to hit store shelves right now. This one here came from Target. So happy hunting, my friends, and until next time.